Hello again. I have a book. Amelia Bedelia's first apple pie. And there she is. Okay, you've read several books about Amelia Bedelia as an adult and a few as a little girl. This one's about when she's a little girl, and it's by Herman Parrish, who is a nephew of Peggy Parrish, and she wrote the original Amelia Bedelia books. So they're keeping it all in the family. Well, here's our first picture in the story, and I bet you can just look at it and tell what season it is. What time of year is it? Yeah, it's fall. Look at the leaves and the pumpkins and squirrel, and there's even a little stalk of corn. And fall is in the air. Amelia Bedelia was visiting her grandparents. It was a glorious autumn afternoon. The perfect day to rake leaves into piles and run around the yard. And it's also fun to jump in piles, right? Fall is in the air, said Granddad. And Granddad and Amelia Bedelia looked up. They heard birds. So are the birds, said Amelia Bedelia. They're in the air too, she meant. VW. What are they trying to spell? Now remember, Amelia Bedelia often takes whatever someone says and thinks it means exactly that instead of an expression. When you say fall is in the air, that means you can feel it or smell it or see it, and you just know it's that time of year. It doesn't literally mean it's flying or something like that, but the birds do fly south in the fall, and they come in different shapes, V's, and sometimes they fly in W's in order to help each other fly in a more, work together as they're flying in that direction to a warmer climate. And so she wonders, what does V and W mean? Well, just then, Amelia Bedelia's grandma came outside. Quick, said Granddad, look busy. But it was too late. Hey, lazy bones, Grandma said jokingly. If you're just going to stand around, I've got a job for you. What do you need? Granddad asked. Apples, said Grandma. I made pie dough, and if you'll get some apples, I can teach Amelia Bedelia how to bake an apple pie. So they're looking at the birds there, and here's Grandma talking to Grandpa about getting some apples. Amelia Bedelia looks pretty excited, clapping her hands. Grandma's apple pie was Amelia Bedelia's favorite. Hooray, she yelled. Race you to the car. And she started to run. Oops, but she tripped over a branch and landed right in a pile of leaves. Whoosh. There she goes. Psh, doesn't look like she's hurt, does it? How was your trip? Asked Granddad as he helped her up. Fun, she said. Fall is in the air and on the ground, too. Granddad smiled and said, watch your step. Now, when he said watch your step, what did he mean? To be careful? Yeah. But Amelia Bedelia is literally watching her step. After she fell, she got up, and now she's watching every step. Amelia Bedelia tried to watch her steps, but it made her dizzy to look down at her feet all the time. Oh, my goodness. Amelia Bedelia and Granddad were already in the car when Grandma called out, be sure to pick up Granny Smith. Who is Granny Smith? Is she helping us make the pie? Amelia Bedelia asked. You bet, Granddad said. We couldn't do it without her. There they are. Grandma's telling him don't forget Granny Smith. Do you know what Granny Smith is? We'll see. If you don't know yet, you'll figure it out. Amelia Bedelia and Granddad drove out into the country. Boy, your supermarket is far away, said Amelia Bedelia. We aren't going to the supermarket, said Granddad. We'll get our apples at the farmer's market. What? Asked Amelia Bedelia. Do we need to buy a farmer? No, said Granddad, laughing. Their apples are just much fresher at the farmer's market. So here they are. she thinks, so here they go out in the country, and here's the farmer's market, which I know you've been to, with all different booths of different kinds of foods and flowers and other goodies. And here's some farmers selling some apples and probably other fruit too. But a farmer's market is not where they sell farmers, is it? It's a place where farmers and other people bring things to sell. So let's see what they're going to do here. Apples are good for me, right? Said Amelia Bedelia. Oh, yes, said Granddad. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. And they're good for your teeth, too. Folks call them nature's toothbrush. Hey, Granddad, said Amelia Bedelia. If I eat an apple a day, I won't have to go to the doctor or dentist ever again. Granddad smiled. Well, I wish it worked that way, Pumpkin, he said. He's just laughing here, and he's throwing something. He's throwing an apple right over to Amelia Bedelia. She's going to catch it. So she's thinking, if it's really true that to eat an apple a day keeps the doctor away, or that they're good for your teeth, you can't take an apple every day, you won't have to go to the doctor or dentist again. But it's really just an expression to say apples are good for you and will keep you healthier. And they're also good to clean your teeth. But we still need to have checkups and see the doctors once in a while, right? Well, Granddad picked up a bright green apple, polished it on his jacket, and tossed it to Amelia Bedelia. Nice catch, he said. Meet Granny Smith. Amelia Bedelia took a loud, crunchy bite. Granny is yummy, she said. So there he is tossing the apple, and do you see what color it is? It's all green, and he says, meet Granny Smith. That's a kind of apple. There's lots of different kinds of apples. We're going to see them on the next page. Well, bushel baskets overflowed with red, yellow, orange, pink, and green apples. Some apples were stripes or spots or splotches, and the colors reminded Amelia Bedelia of autumn. While Granddad chose apples to buy, Amelia Bedelia read the names out loud, and one kind was called Delicious. But they all looked tasty or delicious to her. So here are all of the names of the apples, and each one they drew a little picture by that describes the name and how it would appear in her head. Okay, this one is called Green Sleeves. So the picture is green sleeves. This one's called Winter Banana. And there's a banana dressed for winter. Black Twig, just like you'd think, right? Pink Pearl is a pearl in a oyster shell. Duchess, a lady all dressed up. Northern Lights are lights at night. Granny Smith as a granny. Blaze, looks like a fire. Royal Gala, like a princess. A golden nugget. And last but not least, Delicious, which can come in red like here or golden color. And they're called Yellow Delicious or Golden Delicious. And these are just a few of the kinds of apples. There are tons, hundreds of kinds of apples. But these must be the ones they were selling at that farmer's market. Well, when they got home, Grandma went right to work coring and peeling the apples. And Amelia Bedelia measured the peels to see which one was the longest. I know someone who likes to look at those peels and see how long they can be, and then to eat them up. They're tasty, aren't they? Grandma cut each apple in half, 2 pieces. Then she cut them in half, so there were 4 pieces. And then she cut those 4 pieces in half, so there were 8 pieces. Okay? And finally, she sprinkled sugar and cinnamon on the slices. So here she is. Here's the 2 slices, 4 slices, and 8 slices. And here's Amelia Bedelia measuring the peels. Whoa, they can get really long, can't they? Next, Grandma pulled out all of her pie pans, hunting for just the right one. Amelia Bedelia found a tiny pan and said, "Is this a toy?" "No," said Grandma, "that is a real pie pan. It's just really small." "Aha, Here's the one I want. Now, please get me a little flower, Sugar Plum. She's calling her names of endearment there. See, there they are looking at the different sized pie tins. Little and big, right? So since Grandma said she wanted a little flower, what do you think? Amelia Bedelia found a flower pot on the counter and picked off a flower and gave it to Grandma. A little flower. Is that what she meant? Amelia Bedelia spied a small flower on the windowsill and she picked it. Here you go, Grandma, she said. Thanks, sweetie, said Grandma. And then she showed Amelia Bedelia where she kept the flour that she used for baking. Grandma rolled out the dough. It got flatter and thinner and rounder and bigger. And Grandma said, careful, watch your fingers. So that was the picture I showed you. And then here she is rolling it out with a rolling pin. And then she doesn't want Amelia Bedelia to get her fingers caught in there. So she says, watch your fingers. She means be careful, right? But what do you think Amelia Bedelia did? She watched her fingers. Amelia Bedelia took her hands off the table and watched her fingers very carefully. They looked pretty boring. She wondered why she had to do this to make an apple pie. Well, now we need a sprinkle of flour, said Grandma. So Amelia Bedelia reached into the sack of flour, grabbed a handful, and sprinkled it over all the two of their heads. And Grandma laughed. Not on us, she said, on the dough. Amelia Bedelia sprinkled some on the dough, too. That Grandma's very patient, isn't she? So that's the picture we just looked at. And here is Amelia Bedelia sprinkling flour in the air. If you're hearing a little snoring or soft sleeping noises, my little doggie's right over there next to me. At last, said Grandma, we're ready to put this pie together. And that's exactly what Grandma and Amelia Bedelia did. Then Grandma popped the pie into the oven, set the timer, and started to clean up the kitchen. So here they are finishing up the pie and dumping in the apples and getting it all ready and plopping it in the oven. And that's when Amelia Bedelia had an idea. She took the leftover dough and rolled out 2 small circles. She put one in the little pie pan, filled it with the extra apples, and plopped the other circle on top. Then she crimped the edge all around. That's like sealing the 2 crusts together with the apples inside. And then a smidgen, just a little bit of dough was left, so she made a little flower, a tiny daisy, to decorate the top. So there she is working, rolling out the dough so she has 2 round pieces, puts the apples in, and then makes a beautiful, and the crust on top, and then makes a beautiful daisy out of dough to put on top. She's very creative. Well, your mom and dad will be here soon, said Grandma, and then we'll have a pie party. Yippee, said Amelia Bedelia. Do you think that sounds fun? I do. Granddad heard the commotion and came into the kitchen. What are we celebrating, he said. Honey, said Grandma, Amelia Bedelia made her first apple pie. And there they are talking, and there's Amelia feeling very proud of her little pie she's sitting with there. Okay? Well, after Grandma took her pie out of the oven, Amelia Bedelia carefully and secretly slid hers in. I'm going to set this outside to cool, said Grandma. So this pie comes out, steam all over the place, and Amelia Bedelia sneaks hers right in there. Now there's room. And Grandma takes it outside because it's very hot and steamy, and she thinks it'll cool off outside. Well, it was time to get ready for the party. Grandma hummed as she set the table, and soon Granddad was whistling the same tune, and outside the birds were chirping and tweeting and singing like mad. Listen, said Amelia Bedelia. It sounds like the birds are having a party too. Then there's Grandma. Here they are setting the table, and Amelia's looking out the window, and Grandma says, "My pie!" exclaimed Grandma. She heard all those birds chirping, and she thought, uh-oh. Sure enough, they all ran outside, and the pie was covered with birds. Scram, hollered Grandma. Shoo, shoo. And the birds went chirp, 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 chirp. Look at, they were having a pie party, for sure. Uh-oh, look at the pie. The pie container is empty. Amelia Bedelia took off her shoe and handed it to Grandma, but it was too late. Our pie, said Amelia Bedelia. Gone, said Grandma. Just then, Amelia Bedelia's parents arrived. Amelia Bedelia's dad stared at the empty pie pan. Well, gee, he said, couldn't you wait for us? The birds ate our pie, said Amelia Bedelia. What birds? Asked her mom. I think they were swallows, said Granddad. They sure were, said Amelia Bedelia. They swallowed the whole thing. Well, there is a kind of bird called a swallow. But she's thinking it's because they swallowed it. Well, sweetheart, said Amelia Bedelia's mother, let's imagine how good it would have tasted while we eat our ice cream. So they're kind of cheering her up a little bit. And she looks like she likes ice cream, doesn't she? I think most people like ice cream, don't you? The whole family tried to enjoy the ice cream and not to think about the pie. But that was impossible. We made the best pie, said Amelia Bedelia. It was a thing of beauty, said Grandma. It would have been delicious, said Granddad. It was a perfect pie, said Amelia Bedelia. Her lower lip trembled, and she let out a sob. Oh. So here they are talking about how delicious it would have been and how great it was. You know, said Amelia Bedelia's father, just hearing you talk about that pie makes me think I can smell a fresh baked pie coming out of the oven. My pie, exclaimed Amelia Bedelia. So her dad thought he could still smell that pie, and she remembers he smells it because there is a pie in the oven. Her pie, her little secret little creation. Well, they raced to the kitchen, and Grandma took the tiny pie out of the oven and set it on the table, because she didn't want Amelia Bedelia to do that part. She wanted to be the one in the oven. That's an adult job, isn't it? And there it was, bubbling hot and baked to perfection. They all gathered around and gazed at it as though it were a brand new baby. That's how we're going to look at the new baby in our family when he comes. We go, ooh. And they're all gazing at it. Beautiful, the beautiful little pie. It's absolutely perfect, said Amelia Bedelia's mother. Just like Grandma's, said Granddad. Only smaller, said Amelia Bedelia. And you made it all by yourself, said Grandma. This time, said Amelia Bedelia's father, let's let the pie cool down inside the house. I think he's pretty smart, don't you? Let's not put it outside again. But no one could wait. The pie looked so good. Grandma cut tiny pieces for everyone. She took one bite and declared, "This is the best apple pie I have ever tasted." Amelia Bedelia's smile was so big that it was hard for her to eat. She was smiling so big. "Thank you, Grandma," she said, "and thank you, Granny." "Granny who?" said Amelia Bedelia's mother. "Granny Smith," said Amelia Bedelia. "She made all of our apples in the first place." Well, she's coming. There's everybody enjoying their little piece and talking. And there's Amelia with her grandma joking about Granny Smith being the apples in the pie. And that's the end, except this page, which I won't read, but it's Amelia Bedelia's apple pie. And it gives you a recipe for the crust and the filling and then how to put it all together. And it looks yummy. We'll have to try it sometime. And that's the end. Oh, here's the back cover of Amelia Bedelia's first apple pie. It says, "Amelia Bedelia, she'll grow on you." That's a funny expression, too. Does that mean she'll really grow on us? She'll start sticking out of our arms or our legs or something? It just means that we'll get to like her more and more and want to read her books. That's it. Love you.